glad you've joined me. This is Marisa with Learn and Be Well, and I help busy moms fill their cups so they can flourish and avoid burnout. And who doesn't want that, right? So I'm glad you've joined me. And today it's Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And just like every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific, I am here to share with you stories from Sensei. I don't know about you, but I love stories. And stories have helped me get through some of the hardest times in my life. They've helped me with parenting. They've helped me with understanding the world around me. And I think that's why I love stories so much. So I hope these stories I share with you touch your heart and help you just make sense of the world around you. And I hope you can use them with your kids, because I can't tell you how many times they've helped me. So today I want to talk to you about the Prince and the Hawk. As you're jumping on, do say hi. Let me know you're here. And sorry, my nose all of a sudden started itching. Oh, I hate it when that happens. Anyway, so let me know you're here. Say hi and tell me what was the best thing that happened to you this weekend. I would love to know what's going on in your life. And for us, we just kind of had a kickback weekend. But I attempted to go out looking for some cottonwood buds. And I struck out a few times. We had a gnarly windstorm the other day, and that's the perfect time to go out and harvest the cottonwood buds, because cottonwoods will drop their branches. And anyway, I need to go looking again. So on to my story. So some people, I'm so sorry. Hopefully that'll work. Some people attribute this to Genghis Khan, that he was the prince in this story. Whether he was or not, I don't know. But this is the story that my sensei told me. Once upon a time, there was a prince, and he was a marvelous hunter, and he had with him a hawk. This hawk was his best friend. This hawk had been with him for years and years and years. And always, as he went out, he would take his hawk with him to go hunting. And on this particular day, he was out with a party of courtiers, and they were out hunting. And his hawk would fly up in the sky and circle around and dive down and bring him back a rabbit or something to that effect. Well, this particular day, they really hadn't met much game, and it had been a long, hot day, and they'd gone out in the forest for a very long time. And the prince had been very familiar with this forest and decided that he wanted to have some time alone. And so he sent the courtiers off and decided to take kind of the meandering road back home rather than the fast way home. But it had been a particularly hot day, and he was very, very thirsty. And so as he was going through the forest, he remembered seeing a spring on his way in. He thought, I'll just go get a drink of water. And as he came, that spring had dried up, and he thought, okay. He kept going. He was getting so thirsty. And pretty soon, he could see up on the rock a trickle of water coming down, crystal clear. And he remembered that there was a spring up there, and he thought, finally, something to drink. And so this prince took his silver cup, and he put it up against the rock, and drip, 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 water slowly filled his cup. Now his hawk was circling high above, and this hawk noticed what he was doing and dove down and knocked the cup out of his hands. Now the prince was angry, because he had waited a really long time for this water to fill his cup. And stupid hawk knocked his cup out of his hands. Now he had to start all over again. Can you relate? Have you ever felt like that? So the prince put his cup up against that rock. Drip, drip, drip. This time he was not going to wait till it filled up, because he was so thirsty. And so he waited till it was about half full. And just as it was about to get to his lips, wham! The hawk smashed that cup out of his hands. This prince looked up at his hawk, and he yelled and he screamed, "What is wrong with you, you stupid animal? Why? Why did you knock that out of my hands?" And so again, he put his cup out to the water. This time he drew his sword, and he thought, stupid hawk, I'll teach you for messing with my water. And so he held his sword, and just as the hawk was about to knock that cup out of his hands, he slashed with his sword, and the bird fell to the ground. Meanwhile, he realized that he also knocked that cup up into a crevice that he could no longer reach, up on the wall, up on the rock crevice. Now he was really foiled. He couldn't get any water, and so he had to climb up to the spring. Leaving his dead hawk behind, tying his horse up, he climbed up the side of the rock. And as he got to the very top, where the spring was trickling down over the side of the rock, he found a snake dead in the water, the most poisonous of all snakes, poisoning that water. This prince was completely destroyed. He was so sad now because he realized in that moment that the hawk had saved his life. And so without getting any water to drink, he climbed back down, carefully picked up his hawk, put him in his hunting bag, and returned home. And that's the end of my story. Now, my question to you is, what are the hawks in your life? Do you ever experience that? Do you ever have something happen to you where it seems to you to be an inconvenience, or something in your way, standing in the way of what you really want, and it seems to be just simply there to thwart you? Do you ever seek a mentor? You know, the thing with mentors is that they have gone before us, and often they can see the pitfalls ahead of us before we can ever see them. And they can warn us. Do we heed their warnings? Or do we ignore them? What's been your experience? Share with me below. Do you feel that how do you react when your mentor says, don't do that? It's not a good idea. You're like, well, she's doing it. It's working for her. I'm going to do it. Does it work for you? Do we seek God? How many times in life have I been told to do something that seemed so far away from what I wanted, but in reality, it actually brought me the very thing I wanted? For example, when my husband lost his job a number of years ago, we were in California, and we knew that we really couldn't stay there. We knew we were pretty much done in California at that point. And we started to pray, what do we do? Where do we look for a job? And as much as we loved our little town and where we were, we knew that our home was no longer there. And the Lord told us to look in Alabama. Newsflash, we never lived in Alabama. We moved to Washington instead. And so by looking in Alabama, we actually found our job in Washington. That was so bizarre to me, to follow blindly. And all the while, there's a hymn, Lead Kindly Light, and it was my mantra. Lead kindly light, one foot into the darkness, and the light will come again. Or another example is when I started my business. Frankly, I didn't want to. I was in a dark place. I was moving to a brand new town. I didn't know anybody. I had been dealing with some trauma and was not feeling like I was capable of showing up, and didn't want to put out the effort. And it was really, frankly, really daunting. How many of you have had that feeling where you're just like, at the same time, you want to be unstuck. You want to get out of the pit you're in. And it just seems like an insurmountable goal. That was where I was at. I felt like I was living in a pit. And I could see some light up there, but frankly, it was dark. I was always dark, and I hated it, and I was miserable, but I wanted out. But every time I poked my little head out, it was so scary. I'd come back down in my hole. And God said, start business. Join this company. And you know what? I've made friends across the country. I have better physical health. I have better mental health. And I got out of that dark pit. I am not who I was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So listening to God will do wonders for you. So my challenge for you this week is to listen to the mentors, even if it's not what you want to hear. And be aware that all around you, there are hawks giving you warnings. And they may not be telling you the things you think you should hear or that you want to hear. use the gift of discernment and think outside of your box and see if it's something you need to hear. Because I guarantee that the true hawks, your true friend hawks, are not there to thwart your efforts. They want you to have the water, but they also want you to be safe. Drop a comment below. Let me know what was most helpful today. And I hope this was a benefit to you. Remember, nourish your body inside and out. Onward and upward, friends. Have a great week. See you next week. Bye-bye.